I am Emma Joyce. I am CEO of GBBC Digital Finance, and it is my absolute pleasure to be here with you today in this wonderful city. Thank you so much for joining us. I will take a few minutes very shortly for the panelists to introduce themselves, and I'm incredibly honoured to be on this panel with such an esteemed selection of panelists. So thank you very much. So we're talking today about driving the provenance of energy, and this panel is in partnership with VCV Digital Group. So thank you to VCV. So why are we here? Well, the United Nations has noticed that progress in the electrification has slowed, and the challenges of reaching those communities that have been hardest to reach over the past decade increasing. Although the use of renewable energy and energy efficiency has improved, progress is not fast enough to achieve Sustainable Development Goal 7, affordable and clean energy. So we're going to look at why is the provenance of energy important? How is blockchain being used in this area today? And we're going to take a little time to discuss the projects that the panelists are involved in or know about. So if I could ask you all to take a couple of minutes to introduce yourselves and your companies, and then we'll get the conversation started.
Okay, I'll start. My name is Jerry Tang. I'm the CEO of VCV Digital. Our business is focused on providing infrastructure for crypto mining companies. That's how we are related to energy. We try to use this as a tool to help accelerating deployment of some renewable projects, including wind and solar.
Hi, everybody. My name is Emma Todd. I am the CEO of MMH Digital Systems. I am also a GBBC ambassador. Woohoo! Okay, you guys are just not morning people. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I do work with some work with Jerry, and I am also doing work with Sustainable Bitcoin Protocol. And I'm so excited to talk to everybody on the panel about this today, because what we do is we provide certificates to let companies know that they do green mining. So we verify that with them, and we are having a hot topic of conversation outside. And so I'm looking forward to continuing it in here.
My name is Ellen Carey. I'm the Vice President for Policy and Public Affairs for Circulor. So we track and trace especially critical minerals from a mine site, say lithium, nickel, cobalt, et cetera, through to production, rare earths even, all of the minerals and materials that are really making this electrification transition that's happening in our world possible. We're proving where they came from and that there's sustainable resource, responsible sourcing in that production.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joseph Chu. I am the head of mining at BlockFi. BlockFi is a leading asset manager for retail and institutional investors. My background is 2 years of running both self-mining infrastructure and mining lending at BlockFi. Before that, I was in a variety of different financial services roles, but the most important to this panel would be my time financing renewable energy products.
Hi, everyone. I'm Naveed Ihsanullah, Head of Engineering Research at Algorand, Inc. Algorand is a pure proof-of-stake Layer 1 blockchain invented by Sylvia Macaulay, Turing Award winner. And at Algorand, I wear a lot of hats. Among them, I spend a lot of time on central bank digital currencies and energy and sustainability projects. It's great to meet everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much. So Naveed, I'm going to start with you, if you don't mind. Why is the provenance of energy important?
Sure. No, energy provenance is important because authenticity starts at the very beginning. And with the supply side, the generation side of energy, you have to understand how it was sourced. Is it renewable? If it's being generated in a green fashion. So everywhere else in the pipeline thereafter, you know where you began, and you can then assert all your claims correctly. We don't want to, as the climate becomes more and more of an issue going forward, we want to make sure that our energy is responsibly sourced.
And I can follow that up because it's related. I'm going to use a specific example of a project that I'm working on for the creation of green Bitcoin. So obviously, Bitcoin's the center of some controversy about its energy use, to the extent that a person that wants to buy a Bitcoin would know with 100% certainty the provenance of that energy, that it was actually mined using electricity from, for example, a hydroelectric plant in Norway, hypothetically. Being sure, well, the ultimate buyer being sure that that's exactly where the electricity came from and it wasn't mixed together with some other sources. And then it went into a pool. And I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with how Bitcoin's mined, but usually lots of miners put their processing power together and then it goes into a one pool, and it's all it functions as like a mixer. So from the point of view of a pool, you need to be separating all that green energy from the pool. Anyway, there are lots of issues like this when it comes to trying to create something like green Bitcoin, and it's a challenge to get it right.
So a different application of this that I'm excited about is, we're trying to decarbonize transportation, and we're doing that through electric vehicles, battery electric vehicle, plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. And just in the last month, the US has joined Europe in saying, if you're going to buy an electric vehicle, you're going to know where these minerals and materials came from, and you're going to have proof of their journey, proof of their production, and they were responsibly sourced. So what's really exciting is that consumers like you and me, when we go buy an electric vehicle and something that requires a lot of minerals and materials out of the earth, we're going to be able to say, I know where it came from. I know there was no child labor. I know there was no forced labor. And in Europe, it would be, I know the embedded carbon in my vehicle. And that's going to put strong power within the purchasing power of consumers. And that's really exciting.
That is very exciting. I like that. So I'm like, I just want to hear more. So what I am doing is similar to what Joseph is doing, where what we do is when people buy Bitcoin, and I know everyone's interested in Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies here, the question always is it renewable? And what we're seeing is some people were like, listen, we want to buy Bitcoin, but their challenge is we really do believe in trying to preserve the earth, and we really want to make sure that what we're buying is renewable. So what we've done is we've created a certificate, but the best part about that is it's transferable. So that means, Emma, if you want to buy some Bitcoin, then you want to sell it later, and then you want to sell it to Ellen, you can also, that certificate that we give you that tells you that this Bitcoin that you bought is renewable, or percentage of Bitcoin is renewable, you can also take that certificate and you can give it to Ellen. So she knows that the Bitcoin that she now possesses is renewable.
Yeah, speaking from my experience, I think, and echo the other panelists, is how do you verify the source has X percentage of renewable, nuclear, gas, coal? And the thing is with electricity grid is it's very dynamic. The demand and load, they change every second. Because the demand is kind of random. So how do you go back and verify at every moment when you are using the electricity, how much was being generated from renewable, how much was being generated from non-renewable sources? That's a seems easy, but not not easily done.
Okay, thank you. I think we're going to come back to the projects because, I think we need to spend a bit more time on, these use cases and exactly what's happening. But can we have a think now, how is blockchain being used, at the moment? Ellen, can I start with you on that?
Sure. So, and I can talk about a project too. We're working with the German Economic and Climate Ministry to do a battery pass project. So we are the demonstrator or the organizer of all of the different data points that you're going to want to know about every battery that's placed into service into the European market. So there's different parts of information that's shareable, not shareable. And what we're doing is we're using our technology underpinned by blockchain to ensure that different information is shared with the right participants and not shared with others. And that's something I think that Europe is really leading on in terms of management and creating transparency for what's in the batteries, but then also that they start creating a circular economy and economic benefits for the next generations of technology.
Thank you. Jerry, do you see blockchain as the future in this area? I mean, we're starting, but how much is it going to be used, do you think?
Wow, that's a very large question. Everybody is trying to find out the answer. I think the general direction is right. Blockchain and crypto in general is probably one of the fastest growing industry. That's why I changed my career direction from Wall Street and real estate into crypto. I think just be specific. I think the fact that like Alan was working on the tracing various sources and be able to say this is how it's produced and where it's produced. I think it's very important, and I think a blockchain probably is the more efficient technology for that. So that there's a lot of applications, that can be very helpful in the ESG sphere.
Emma, would you agree with that blockchain is the most efficient?
I think so. I think so. In the end, you can use smart contracts and generate it fairly quickly. It just works very well for what we're doing. And what I like about blockchain is that it's transparent. You can see what's happening, and someone can't. And we're all aware of those companies or companies that say they're doing one thing but end up doing another. And so when you have it on the blockchain, you can verify. And I think that is the best thing about it, transparency.
I'd agree with that completely. Joseph, what are your thoughts?
I would support that. Thinking about how the sources of the energy are verified, right? Like attested to. You could see a model like rating agencies, for example, where you've got a Moody's or Fitch or whoever saying, okay, we're the authority on this. We're going to put a greenness rating on this Bitcoin, right? 100 or 50 or whatever it is. But then you have that entity that is the kind of like a semi-monopolistic entity that has control over the market, that collects economic rents, and by definition, that's inefficient. So if you can use the blockchain and circumvent that kind of like information storage, the ledger, who has control over the ledger, then you've taken that part out of the economic rent equation. Now you still need the attestation. You need the entity that's going to verify, right, that it actually came from where you said it came from, but you've taken parts of it out of that world.
Naveed?
Hi, so I'd like to echo what Joe said. I wholeheartedly agree. It's the fact that blockchain sort of deals with the not just the attestation. We know the blockchain is open and transparent, but because it's decentralized, it allows for things that are very difficult in a pre-regulated sort of innovative market like energy provenance. And blockchains allow for self-assembly because it's decentralized. But there's another piece that I think that really gets me excited about blockchain, and that is blockchain has its own built-in incentivization model. Because currency value can be transferred and swapped on blockchain, you can align your incentive model for why I want green energy and attaching it to the right consumers, those who are motivated to buy it, using the built-in crypto or stable or CBDC that might be present. And that's something that's completely new. I have a confession. I used to work in the Web 2 world. I worked for a company called Mozilla. We built the Firefox browser, but I also worked heavily on standards for everything related to the internet. And one of my sort of things that I feel we did poorly there is we made this amazing platform for building anything, and there was no built-in monetary system. And so what happened, I think we all know, ads became the monetary system of Web 2.0. And that means the incentivization model is your personal data, et cetera, et cetera. With blockchain, we have the possibility of, I'm focused solely on the on this particular nuclear power generation or wind generation or the exact attributes I want for a particularly sourced joule or kilowatt hour. And I can connect it and I can pay for it. And since I'm paying for it directly, those who want to generate that kind of power are benefiting from generating that kind of power.
Thank you. So I think as we've discussed, blockchain is a very efficient way to work in this area, and it's very transparent. And I think that means that consumers can understand the provenance of energy. Now, is it up to industry to push for blockchain use, or should we be expecting governments and policymakers to be doing that?
I'm going to take that.
Okay.
I think we have to push. If we wait for the government, it may not happen, let's be honest here, right? And, we're going to get old quickly. So we really have to push. And also, when you lead, you can sort of direct the how you want it to go, the discussion and things that need to be focused on. So I would rather we do that rather than the government tell us what to do, because they may mess it up or they may not focus on the things that we think are the best things to focus on.
And are we doing that? Are governments taking note, do we think?
So, okay, I'll take that one again. Yes, they are. Not necessarily in the way that I would like sometimes, but they are. The White House just released a paper. I'm going to spend a riveting night tonight going through it in detail because I'll have a little bit of time. I hear it is amazing. Has anyone gone through it as yet? Is it really as amazing? I heard. Yeah, okay. Basically, they tell you fix it or else we'll fix it for you. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So we're doing that now. Why it's really important, even given the fact that I'm Canadian, is because if the US does something, other countries tend to be a fast follow. So we really need to have a look at that. And as the chair of the mining committee in Canada, I really want to make sure that we're making sure that we're doing all that we can and we're really pushing renewable sources where possible.
Okay, thank you, Emma. Naveed?
Okay, if I could add, I completely agree with what Emma said. We want to start. We don't want the government to tell us what to do, and it's not because I'm cynical and think the government will do it wrong. But I think there's a natural progression of innovation, and that is we have ideas, we throw a bunch of things at walls and find out what sticks, and most of them will be bad. But we have to be able to play in that environment where we can do it quickly, and then collectively, the suppliers, the industries, the people who really are have some sort of stake in this game, figuring out what works best. And then once we get a version that we like, the governments will definitely be paying attention. As I read that paper, and they're paying attention. And I think what I learned from reading that paper is they want to see what we come up with. And then regulation will look at that and say, what parts of this should be standardized? But once they standardize it, they also recognize that it will be very, very hard to change. So give us some space. We'll come up with something that works well. Collectively, that's the blockchain designers like myself, the industries who generate and consume power, even all the way through the consumers, what model might work there. And when we have some variants that we're pretty happy with, I think we can get that standardized. And once it's standardized, everyone else who's not interested in this problem will benefit from our implementation.
I'm like agnostic as to which side is best suited to deal with the problem. But let's just face it, when it comes to anything blockchain or crypto oriented, governments are slower to respond. That almost all the innovation is occurring in the private sector. So if we want something to happen and happen relatively quickly, it's going to be a private sector initiative. And so it's just a fact, I think.
So someone should just set up take a page from the Green E certification, which is actually a private business, and just start a company and focus on doing accounting, auditing of power sources.
Oh, there's just one, I just had one thought about that. So one thing that is government related, regulation related that is driving sustainability in general is reporting. So to the extent that the SEC says you have to, public company, have to report, and then you're subject to Starbucks and all of these incentives and disincentives, they are then find it in their own self-interest to do these types of reporting. So disclosure might be the kind of backdoor way to do it.
Yeah, I see it that way as well. And I have seen it being led by industry. For instance, we work predominantly in the automotive space where you have automotive brands that are saying we're sustainable and we're ready to prove it. And we need blockchain technology to enable us to do that. Now, we've been showing that to governments both in the EU and the US, and they're catching hold. They don't necessarily know what technology they need, but they know what they like, and they know what they like that they see that it's working in terms of labeling, proving, et cetera. And so it's a continuous educational effort. But again, coming back to either the SEC regulations or the Inflation Reduction Act regulations and fulfilling those provisions, or the EU various requirements, it is coming up with that. We know our entire chain of custody, and we're able to prove it to a product level in terms of the sustainability and the responsibility.
Brilliant. That's what we need. Joseph, could I come back to you and maybe delve a little deeper into projects in this space, please?
Sure. So just with this Green Bitcoin initiative, it's pretty hard nut to crack here. I believe that it's going to be way harder than most people think it's going to be, because you got to get, in my view, to the actual source, the generator of the power. So that means going to every single, basically, renewable power plant in the world, really, and somehow getting them to agree that that there's some a tester that has access to audit their supply chain and verify that it's the case. So it's not going to be easy to roll out, but ultimately it's, I think, essential, because what you really want is you want the consumer, the person that in this case is buying the green Bitcoin, to be sure that it's not a scam, or and for that to hold up over time, it's going to have to be authentic. It's going to have to be transparent. The standards are going to have to be transparent, and the blockchain will have some role in that transparency.
Absolutely. Emma, did you want to go next?
Okay, now, I get what you're saying, Joseph. I think one of the things is that one way to combat it, it's not perfect, but it's better than nothing, is obviously an audit. So if you get that company or all the companies to say, like in their audit, we're disclosing that we are only selling it once, and we can verify that, and also have Bitcoin companies, when they're getting energy, ensure that that renewable certificate, or that they're getting, is only being issued once into them. That's the only way I can really think of doing it. Yes, it does require a little bit of trust, but I think that the audit should hopefully back that up. But that's really the only way I can think of that does that.
To add something here if I could. Do you want to respond first? So I want to trust everyone. I think we all want to trust one another. So instead of making it about trusting a person or not, let's make it about easy versus hard. Right now, auditing is massively intensive, labor intensive, and paperwork intensive, requires usually a number of agencies across the pipeline, from power generation to consumption. I'm working on a project that's being deployed in with European government that I think addresses that pipeline in a way that actually makes sense. On the supply side, we need attestation of that it's green, that it came from this particular generator. And when you have a certificate that this generator is nuclear, of course you know what its characteristics are, or if it's a wind powered, or et cetera, or if it's even being powered by some sort of fuel, what the source of those fuels were. Now you have it tested in some fashion. And then in the middle, you need some sort of currency that marks that carbon or that kilowatt hour. And the blockchain, we all know, is fantastic for that. But the part that really makes it hard is on the supply side, on the consumer or consumption side. How do we only track it once? And what we're doing is we're pairing the generation with a consumer who wants that particular type of power. And they can say, I want it sourced like this. And then that one-to-one is mapped on the blockchain, that pair is taken away. And then you get your one-to-one, it's only been used once. I can't say that I have 20% green. I'm 100% green. I bought all my power from these places. And that still sounds too hard, to me at least. So the last step, and I think the brilliant step, and it's not my idea, so I take zero credit for this, is smart meters that actually, all the way from the beginning to the end, connected to the blockchain and to the process, that do all the work for you. So you, as a consumer, say, I want this pattern of assets, or sorry, of energy, and it will deal with your credit card payments and buy the appropriate energy from all the right suppliers.
Okay, I love that. Jerry, is there a project you want to talk about?
Yeah, I guess continue on that thought thread. I think maybe there are certain low-hanging fruits, at least in tracing the source, energy source. There are certain areas and the regions in the US that data is published on an hourly basis on generation sources. How many megawatt hours generated and used. So maybe that's an area where we can kind of get us started.
For sure, there's in the U.S. I don't know other international markets as well, but there's SCADA data on every single power plant in the U.S. So there is that. You'd have to go a little bit behind that, but there is a source of data, and doing what Naveed's suggesting, which is connecting that source with the ultimate user, whether it's a smart meter, which is a great idea. I mean, you could have this meter on your house, and it would say, okay, right now you're getting green wind energy, or that's no longer available. Now you're getting solar, and then that ran out. So you're getting coal, but at least you know, and you can put a preferences in to say, I want that first. I want solar first. I want wind first, and I'll pay more for it. And that's like the last part, which Naveed was suggesting, that there's got to be an economic model for it. If people are willing to pay more, then there will be the natural incentive. And that works for this green Bitcoin idea too, thinking that green Bitcoin will probably trade at a premium to not green Bitcoin.
Actually, I have a question for Naveed. How do you think about the relationship between what do you do, which seems like it's some sort of energy market, micro energy market, versus RECs, versus renewable energy credits? What are the interaction between those two things?
So maybe I'm not familiar enough with renewable energy credits. I'm familiar with carbon credits. Are they similar?
Well, RECs is probably more official. I guess carbon credit is kind of soft.
Okay.
Right?
So what I can say is the matching. I'm working on a number of different projects, all the way from this sort of ultimate solution to carbon markets like climate trade and global carbon holding, which tokenize carbon sequestering, and so you can purchase offsets that way. So I think all of these projects apply. Some of them are really hard solutions that require the government to be involved almost from the beginning. That sort of ultimate metering model that also requires hardware and lots of other orchestration. But some are much easier to do, like the credit model. What I like about that is I today know that I used up 18 tons of carbon somehow because I'm burning paper in the backyard or something. I can buy that offset, and that's immediate. No one else needs to be involved, and I feel good about myself, and maybe I did something somewhat reasonable to balance out my usage. But that helps on one-off basis. It doesn't sort of help the overall universe of energy production. Be transparent, see what it's doing, and the moment you make it all transparent and available, I think what will happen is we'll all start to optimize for decreasing energy consumption overall, but also grossly decreasing energy consumption from dirty carbon sources. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I guess it's interesting because there is already in half of the U.S. energy market is kind of free market already. So it seems like maybe you're suggesting you differentiate the energy when you trade them somehow, right? Maybe nuclear has a higher price versus other type of fossil fuel energy.
Absolutely. So, Joe mentioned this earlier.
Right.
I imagine a future where
because right now natural gas seems to have the highest price
right. For different reasons maybe, but there'll be premiums for different creation, or there should be. Green Bitcoin when it's trading will likely have a premium, and I think people will be willing to pay a premium for wind, nuclear, et cetera, different sourced energies. But right now there's no good way to do that, because I can say that I bought green energy for a 5% premium, but there's no proof that I actually sourced that. And so until you sort of solve the pairing problem, it's all sort of ephemeral and pretend. And as much as I like all of us being, conscious about the environmental impact we have, I would rather it also be real.
I think the real problem that we have is that we're going to have to charge a premium on green Bitcoin. It should be opposite. But there's really no way around it, I don't think, to solve for that problem.
Well, if it creates the right incentive mechanism, that's probably worth it.
I think we've got about 10 minutes left. And Ellen, I'm going to come to you first. What I'd love to hear is, what is the dream? Where do we want to end up? I mean, immediately I want a smart meter now, which is going to tell me exactly what I'm using, so I want that. But really, what's the dream for the industry and really for all of us?
Well, I couldn't agree more that this real-time carbon issue has to get sorted out, not just in terms of achieving a premium, but meeting a regulation. So in 2024, I'm going to speak back to the batteries because it's really setting a precedent for all of the products that are getting set into the European market. You're going to have to prove your carbon by that battery. So that's going to take time. And until people have real-time information about the grid and power generation, they're just saying, hey, I want Bonneville Power Association hydro, or I want to go up to Quebec and have peace of mind, period, full stop. So I think that has to get solved very quickly in terms of both achieving that premium or showing that proof of compliance with forthcoming regulations, for sure.
Emma, can I come on to you? What's the dream? Where are we? Where do we need to go?
The dream would be to have more renewable energy being used for Bitcoin and for crypto, and have it be more affordable, and have honestly people not be as greedy in terms of the pricing that they want, because they have it, but it's very expensive, and they put on all these different things that they want, which then prices it a little bit out of the market. So it's very, very hard to find it. So that means then that people won't necessarily do anything in North America. They end up going somewhere else, which is actually not necessarily a bad thing. But if we can keep some jobs here at home, that's also good, as opposed to going to another country.
And what's the solution to trying to take out that greed? Is there one?
I don't think so.
No.
I think it's really just, it's
No.
a free market, right?
Human nature.
Unfortunately. If anyone has a solution to this, come find me after. I would love to hear it. But yeah, I really don't think there is one.
Jerry, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think ideally we can use Bitcoin mining, which is a captive and flexible energy user, to speed up the renewable developments a little bit. There's a lot of I guess, clock ups in certain regions like PJM, that's Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, the grid stopped taking new applications, I think, for renewable projects because the renewable are very intermittent, so the grid couldn't handle it right now. So if you have a captive user, maybe you can do it off grid first. At least you get the renewable farms up and running, and then connect to the grid when they are ready.
Naveed, where should we end up?
I think you heard a little bit already about where I would like to end up. But to add to that, I want to see a bidirectional grid. What I mean by that is right now we have primarily a pipeline from creation to consumption. But in the world I want to live in 2024, we'll have solar on our own roofs. Large industrial complexes often have batteries and other power generation locally as well. And I'm working with a large energy company on their demand response system. So they're able to say, hey, tomorrow at noon, it's going to be hot. We need a lot of power from all of you who don't need it during the day. And then having the blockchain be an arbiter in that as well. So they can get their excess energy they require to meet the grid demands. But once again, from green sources first, maybe at some premium, but the blockchain can facilitate that with on-chain auctions in near real time. And then I think once all that's done, in past 2025, 2030, the government says, hey, this looks pretty good. Let's make it real for everyone. Because before that, I think it's an opt-in system. And at some point, we need it to be not opt-in because we want everyone to participate, even though the last few people who are for whatever reason not so excited by green production and consumption.
Joseph.
Yeah, I love that. Just the connection of the source to the user through this immutable, transparent data system that enables virtue signaling to be replaced by actual virtue. Like I've actually used green energy rather than I drive a Tesla, but also fly private. I think that's the promise of this data, the availability of data and the ability to control and trust the data.
Well, and hopefully you're saying, I drive a Tesla and I know exactly where that nickel came from. I know exactly where that cobalt came from. And I know that my lithium was produced with carbon capture sequestration, and I have the proof. So the ideal world for me is, we're gonna mine 386 mines in the next 10 years to produce the electrified economies that we want. We have to do it sustainably. We have to create transparency and reward the folks that are doing it along the entire supply chain, both the mine, but also all the way to our products. That if they're going with hydropower and low carbon emissions, if they're doing it safely and responsibly, that's transparent and they're rewarded for that, so that we're upping the game. And then ultimately too, the assets that we do build are then recycled securely, safely, responsibly with low carbon. And all of this can be enabled by blockchain, right? Creating this economy where everything is transparent and we know not just this next generation where it came from, but the following as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I think we've probably got, 1 or 2 minutes left if anybody wanted to add any final thoughts at all.
Naveed, and when you know that in the US, they're already using demand response, and they're seeing some interesting results to the point where some of these Bitcoin mining companies are actually making more money selling back to the grid than they are actually doing Bitcoin mining. So it's kind of interesting. What I would like to see is on top of that, it just be green. But baby steps. But it's really quite interesting to see that some companies, they're actually not even doing Bitcoin mining now. They're just selling the power back to the grid, and they're making way more money. Yeah.
the company I'm working with, they're targeting California first. So yes, demand response exists there, but blockchain with auctions is something we're going to bring.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much to my panelists for fitting all of that into 40 minutes. I didn't think we would. It's a big subject. We had a lot to talk about. We got it down. So thank you so much. Thank you all for listening to us today, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.